Shalom Mishpacha. Okay, so this is considered a midweek message for those of you that are listening in. I wanted to go over something which I think will help a lot of you who listen to this message. And I'm going to pick up on two stories. One here is in regards to Jesus, and one is in regards to Elijah. I think both of those stories are relevant. Let me pick up the Elijah story first. And this is Elijah and the widow. And this story occurs in the book of Kings, 1 Kings chapter 17, and it goes as this. It says, sometime later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. So verse 7. Then the word, and I'm reading here from I'll read the Standard Bible today, which is from the NIV instead of the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, because that's most available to most people out there. Then the word of the Lord came to him, go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. When he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so that I may have a drink? And she was going to get it, and he called and bring me please a piece of bread. Now give me a second. I'm also going to open the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls as well, because I think there may be something relevant here I'm not going to find in the NIV. Let me just do a little search in my own Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls. 1 Kings. Okay. Now that's going to be a little way away. Judges. 1 Kings, here we are. Chapter 17, and now I'm going to be reading from the Hidden Truths Hebraic Scrolls, because I think there's some relevant information there that I did not see in the NIV. And let's see, let's wait and look. Verse 7. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. And the word of Hashem came to him, saying, arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow there to sustain you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, fetch me, I beseech you, a little mayim, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I beseech you, a morsel of lachem, bread, in your hand. And she said, as Hashem your power lives, I have not a bread or a roti, but a handful of meal in a barrel and a little oil in a jar. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and cook for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Eliyahu, this case is Elijah of course, said to her, fear not, go and do as you have said, but make me there a little bread first, and bring it to me, and after make for you and for your son. For thus says Yahoshua Elohim of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not finish, neither shall the jar of oil fall low, until the day that Yahoshua sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Eliyahu, and she and he and her house did it many days. And the barrel of meal emptied not, neither did the jar of oil go, according to the word of Yahoshua, which is spoke by Eliyahu, which is Elijah. And it came to pass after these things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and the sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. Okay, so this is the next part, which is the raising of the kid. Okay, we'll leave that part. And that was one aspect of Elijah and a widow. Now, of course, these are true stories that happened in the past, but what are we to derive from them? What are we to derive from them is the fact that this is all about faith and belief. The woman, on the other hand, had a belief, or at least had come to a point in her history that she decided that there was no food, it was some kind of famine, and she decided that it was better for her and her son to die than to continue to struggle. Okay? Now, we got to look at this mystically, not literally. Mystically, here, the woman who wants to die and with her son, generally speaking, of course, that's not that wouldn't be a great thing for somebody to take their life, but this is not so much about taking a life, in this case of the woman's life. What we are being taught over here is, number one, faith. Number two, belief. The woman believed that there was no food, okay, or very little food, scarce, in other words, lack. So there was lack, and she had a lack mentality, okay? So who is the woman? Who is the son? Well, let's look at the symbols. The woman, okay? Now listen carefully. The woman here, now this is mystically speaking, allegorically, symbolically speaking. The woman is your mind, is you and your mind. When you believe in scarcity, in lack, then that is what you will receive, because that becomes your belief. A lot of households today and yesterday, yonder years ago, there were people, living in different countries, America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, other places, and their mothers, when they would scorn their sons, or even the father in this case, they would scorn their children and say, "You're good for nothing, you will be good for nothing." And when children are young, they are like a sponge, and they will absorb things to their brain, and it will dwell there. And also it can cause trauma. Now, how does it cause trauma? Well, when those words are thrown at you as a child, and it doesn't mean child has to be 5 years old. A person who's 17 years old is still a child. Is 19 years old still a child. Somebody who's 21 is not yet mature to be counted adult by the biblical sense of the word. He's not technically definitely in the biblical world, 17 wasn't a marriageable age. So if somebody is 17, 18, and you throw those kind of words at that child, he's very, he is very impressionable. So he may take those words from his father, from his mother, and they will impress upon him, and they will embed in him, in his mind, in his body. And so how does he get the trauma? Well, the trauma, where does the trauma live? The trauma lives in your body cells. So it will be hitting your different body parts, because we are energy. We are an energy source. We are trillions of cells of energy source. So where does the trauma settle? The trauma settles in your cells. How does this trauma show up? The trauma shows up. I've got all these applications closing and opening because I think I had a disconnect from the internet, and when I get a disconnect, I got different applications close and open, and so therefore it makes all these funny sounds. So as I was saying, because there is trauma, and trauma settles in your body parts. In your body, it can settle in your shoulder, it can settle in your legs, it can settle in your arms, and what that does over the years, that those things that are settled over there, they produce pain. You know, people don't just suddenly get diabetes, and they don't just suddenly get arthritis or other pains. They come at a slow pace, and part and parcel of the problem is, like I said, that it's trauma and it's years of what I can only say as neglect and harsh words that are given to you by different people in your life. And it doesn't have to be a mother and father. For a spouse, it could be a husband, it could be a wife who been fighting each other and giving each other bad words, and they also develop trauma like that. And that trauma shows as you get older in years, 30, 35, 40, it starts to show up. It starts to show up as pains, as different kind of ailments. So in order to deal with those ailments, first of all and foremost, for healing, you have to deal with your past. So you have to really go to your past, because these are memories. These are memories that are stored in your brain, and then those memories react and they affect different parts of your body. So first foremost, you'd have to do a revision technique to remove those memories, wipe them out. You'd have to even go back as far as where your mother was nagging at you, or your father, or maybe spouse, and you'd have to go that far and remove those by, how do you remove them? It's very simple. You go back and you, like it never happened. You'd go back and your mother never said that to you, your father never said that to you, your wife and husband never said that to you. In other words, you'd remove those memories, you neutralize them, you kill them. You neutralize and delete those memories, or technically, by the revision technique, what you're doing is you are erasing them or modifying them to where those memories are saying that those things never happened. In other words, if you had a fight with your mom when you were 17 and she nagged at you, that never happened. She never nagged at you. So you go back to you close your eyes, you go back to that time period where you hear the voices of your mom, and you just say, it never happened. My mom and I had a beautiful relationship. My mom encouraged me. My father, I had a great relationship. He encouraged me. So you change it around. By changing it around, it will not disturb you. It will no longer be a problem for you. Years ago, when I say years ago, not that long ago, I'm talking about maybe back in 2018, I had an event. Something happened to me where I went to, I believe it was Qatar, in the city of Doha in Qatar. I was there. I was meant to meet somebody, and they didn't keep the date, they didn't keep the time, they didn't turn up, and I spent money, ticket money to go there, time, hotel, all of that. And when that person didn't turn up and didn't uphold to their word, and we're talking about 5 years ago roughly, then of course it caused me a lot of trauma. I was very angry, very upset at why that person didn't turn up to what they said they would. Anyway, I held on to that anger for a good 6 months. I was very angry at the person. The person came back afterwards apologizing and all that. So forget about it. I didn't want to accept their apology. I was very angry at them for wasting my time, wasting my money, etc. So what then I realized is that it's every time I would go through that memory, I would get angry. Every time I would go to that memory, I'd get angry. Then one day I said to myself, you know what? Enough time, I've got to change this. I've got to neutralize this memory and finish with it. So what I did, I revised it. I went back. I imagined that we actually had a great meeting. The person turned up. and we had a great meeting and a dinner, and I went off to my way, and that person went off their way, and that was it. So I settled that by, number one, first of all, for forgiving that person. Number two, I went back in time and erased that memory, modified it, and to the point of where now I actually had a great meeting opposed to no meeting, and everything went hunky-dory, perfect. So I was happy with it. Once I was happy with it, guess what? I never, after that point, had a problem with that event. I never even remembered it. I never thought about it, and even if that event ever came to my head, it was like, it was all great. Everything went fine. Everything was wonderful. So, meaning that you have to revise certain events in your life to bring them to where those things didn't happen the bad way that they're supposed to have happened, but you modify them. Once you modify them, they are gone, they are erased. They will no longer hold you in trauma. They will no longer affect your health. They will no longer hold you bondage to, because whenever you remember it, you'll hate that person or you'll want to fight that person, etc. All those feelings go away. Okay? So here, Elijah's story is, like I said, the woman here is your mind, and the lack is you. You're the one who's feeling lack, and once you feel lack, the idea of you saying, oh well, I'll go and die, meaning that you succumb to your feelings of lack, and you see no way out, and you see, that's it, that's the end, forget it, and I'm done and finished with it. Okay, so that's one part of the story. The second part of the story that I wanted to look at was where, let me pull that one up as well, which was where Jesus is talking, and it was a parable of Jesus, and I want to pull that one up as well. And let's see, I've got so many different Bibles open over here. Now let me find that Bible where we can read the parable of Jesus. Give me a moment. Where are we? Okay, not here, not in this tab. Okay, we just read 1 Kings. Okay, it's parable of the sower. Okay, so we'll pull that one up. And the parable of the sower is mentioned. Let's see. The parable of the sower. We're book of Matthew, chapter 13, and here it says, verse 1. We'll read from this Bible. The same day Yahoshua went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in the parable, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came up and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places, where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly, because the soil was shallow. When the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seeds fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 160-30 times which was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Now, Jesus is asked a question, what does it mean? And he gives you an analogy of what it means. But I'm going to give you something else. Because they ask him, what does the parable of the sower mean? Then he says, anyone hears a message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of the life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. Okay, listen. It's nothing to do with religion. This is unfortunately the problem where Christianity and maybe even other sects of Christianity have used this kind of parables to push the agenda of, you becoming a good Christian somehow by, listening to Jesus dying on the cross and all of that, and then saying, oh, okay, based on that, you got to be a good Christian, and you got to pick up your cross and walk, and you got to help the church, and you got to go give leaflets indoors in homes and talk to people and talk about your salvation and blah blah blah, on and on it goes. By the way, it's nothing to do with that, because Jesus wasn't a Christian. Jesus was a rabbi. He was giving a parable in a rabbinic form, which actually had totally different meaning to what you're taught today. Let's look at it in context to what it actually means, not what people want to believe in it. So what it actually means, if we look at the parable, he gives a number of parts to it, and he says that there was a seed, there were some seeds, and these seeds are scattered. And he talks about some falling on a footpath, some falling, when they fall on a footpath, because it's hard ground, birds come up and eat it. And then some fall on rocky places, it's not very, good soil. And here, because of lack of soil, because the soil is shallow, it says that it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched. And then he gives another example, because they had little root. The other example he said was some fell on thorns, and the thorns choked the plants. Other seeds fell on good soil. What is good soil? What is bad soil? Okay, well, now that's what we're going to look at. This is again talking about your mind. Exactly the same scenario as Elijah the prophet. It's talking about your mind. That is the fertile ground. Now, what is the path where it says a farmer went out? Who is the farmer? The farmer is you. And what is the seed? The seed is your desire. And what is the path? The hard path where the birds came up. The hard path is your thoughts, is your people around you. You call friends. People around you, you call family. Those people, if you have friends who are negative, okay? If you have friends who are, they don't have an inch of positivity in them, you talk about your desire to them, what they're going to do? They're going to criticize you, they're going to speak negatively about you, and they're going to say negative things, and that means these are the birds that came up and ate it up. The birds are your friends, okay? These are the people who come up, you tell them your desire, and they take it up and they eat it. In other words, they laugh at you, they make fun of you, and they put doubts in your head, and you're done with. That's it. Your desire doesn't even go from A to B. It's finished. When it says some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil, these are your friends who have, maybe they're like partly in your favor and partly not. You tell them, and what happens, they're like maybe yeah and maybe no. They're like maybe yes, maybe no type people. They might encourage you, they might not. So what happens with that, again, you don't get much encouragement from them, and your seed is, in shallow ground, because they're not very believing people. They themselves aren't good in what they do, so therefore they don't want your good either. So technically, these are the ones that are scorching your, these are the ones that scorch your, your seed was growing, is taking hold, but then they came up and said, hey, this, that, and they put all these doubts in your head, and those seeds, those plants that came up, they scorched. And it's like going to the gym. You go to the gym for 1 week, and then the next week, you become undisciplined, and you don't want to go, and that's it. You paid your membership for the whole month or the whole year, and you don't go, and that's wasted. So it says, other seeds fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. What are the thorns? The thorns are people, family, and friends, particularly family, who are not always with you. But when they get to hear of your desire, when somebody says, hey, do you know, Jack over there, Jack wants to buy a Mercedes. And then everybody's laughing at Jack. Jack, let's just use a term, Jack. Jack is a person who has a desire. So Jack has a desire to get a Mercedes in his life, or maybe Jack has a desire to earn $100,000 salary. And the family gets to find out, and the family laughs and makes jokes and ridicules him. And these are the ones, by the way, that fell among thorns. So what are the thorns? The thorns are the members of your family who really hate you. They don't like you. They don't like what you do. And so when they get to hear of your desire, they're not going to hear it from you. They might hear it from a third party, somebody you told, and they went and told them. And so what happens, they're laughing and they are making fun of you. They're saying, oh yeah, he's good for nothing. Oh, he's not going to get his $100,000 salary. He's not going to make his Mercedes. Yeah, he's going to get nowhere. In other words, these are people, they're not your friends. They're not, they may be family, but they're not really family. They're enemies. So then what is good ground, and how do we produce seed with good ground? Number one, we got to avoid all these other grounds. We got to avoid the rocky, we got to avoid the area, the path where birds come up. We got to avoid the rocky, and we got to avoid the thorns, first the sun and the thorns. Why? The 4 types. Those 4 types are 4 types of people. You got to avoid all those 4 types of people to produce your result. So what is the good ground? The good ground is your mind. The good ground is you. You have a belief that you're going to do something. May that be $100,000 salary. May that be buying a house. May that be doing buying a car. It doesn't matter what your desire is. It's your desire. So what do you do with your desire? Number one, you do not discuss it with your family. Not even your wife should know it. Listen, if you decide on a desire, even your wife should not know it. Or in your case, if you are a woman, your husband shouldn't know it. That desire should be with you. Because if you keep it to yourself and you continue to work on it, your husband might ridicule that desire. Your wife might ridicule it. They may laugh at you and they might say, you're stupid, why are you doing this, and what is this? And so they make fun of you. So in order to avoid all of those things, and then they may pass it on to other members of the family. So in order to avoid the whole scenario, do not tell your wife, do not tell your spouse, do not tell your relatives. Whatever desire you decide, it must stay with you. And then what is putting it on good soil? That is step 1 to putting it on good soil, is you haven't told nobody, only you know. It's between you and God, and maybe between you, God, and your rabbi, because you only share it with your teacher, who doesn't ridicule you, who doesn't call you names and doesn't laugh at you, because he is there to encourage you. So therefore, that's good soil. Good soil is you pick a desire and you put it in your head and you work on it. So let me give you now the methodology. The methodology is very simple. Is that when you decide on something, let's take an example. Let's say you were on $25,000 annually, and you have decided that you want to up your salary to $50,000. You want to double it, okay? And it might seem an uphill battle. It might seem a big target, but it's not. Actually, it's simple. How do you do it? And it doesn't matter. You could be on 100,000, and you could be, trying to go 50% up, 100% up. It's okay. No worries. Let me tell you how it worked in my life. When I was living in England, I got my first job. And how did I do my desire? I decided that I was going to earn X amount of money. Okay? Let's say in this case, let's apply to the $25,000. Let's say I was on $25,000. I want to get $50,000 next. So I had a friend. So I told my friend. He says, well, what do you want to get? I said, well, I'm on 25 and I want to make it. He said, how much salary? This actually happened, by the way. He said, how much salary? I said, well, before I even said anything, he's like, well, I think that, you're on this much salary, and I don't think you can go any further. So this was his opinion, by the way, that I couldn't go any further as a software engineer. And I just laughed and I said, you know nothing about me yet. I said, not only will I go further, I will go much further. And I said, my next target will be $50,000 salary. And then he turned around and said, $50,000, wow, that's a lot. And then he's like, this was a lot back 20 years ago. So he goes, wow. And he said, where? I said, where? I said, not in England. I said, I will be traveling to the US. I'll go US and I'll make 50,000 salary. He's like, no way. I said, no way for you, but yes way for me. In other words, I set my goal to go to the US, living in UK, by the way, go to the US and make a $50,000 salary. And by the way, I wasn't on 25, I was on less than that. And my friend was like, no. And then we make a bet. We made a bet of £1, about $1. I said, okay, $1 bet, I make it. And $1 bet, you lose, $1 bet, I win. So it's okay, good enough, we'll do it. So what is the first part? The first part is a decision. Make a decision what you want. You can't be, 1 minute you're 20,000, next minute you're 30, then you're 35, then you're 40. Don't do that. Sure, you can make changes, but decide 1 to 2 times. Between 1 and 2 times, decide what you want. So I decided my salary had to be minimum 50,000. I said minimum 50,000. It was done. There was no change there. And when I made the job, I had no clue how I was going to get to America. Having a British passport, didn't have the American visa at that time, and I didn't have even the know-how how to get there. But anyway, so what ended up, how the circumstances transpired is I set my goal to, I want $50,000 and I want to be in America. And you know what happened? I actually got a job offer to work in New York City in a bank, in a investment bank, and the salary they gave me to come and work there was $52,000. Can you imagine that? I was $2,000 above my target. And when I told my friend, he nearly had a heart attack. He's like, how can that be? How can he just go from here to US and get a job even with 2,000 more? And I was like, no, there's not 2,000 more. Actually, they're going to put me on $60,000 after 3 months. So 52 is just a start. And of course, the green card to follow. So this was based on a decision. This was based on my good seed. What was my good seed? My good seed, I was like, I was immature like a lot of you out there today. I was a little immature. I shouldn't have told my friend, but I told him. And he actually gave me the impetus to succeed even more because he's like, no, you can't. I was like, yes, I will. So this was the impetus for me to succeed and to prove him wrong. So I actually, even more so in my mind, I was preparing to go to the US. So my point is this, that first decide what you want. Don't think to yourself, oh, $100,000 a lot. No, it's not. Because I went on from 50 to make $100,000 salary, plus bonuses. So don't think like that. So decide on your salary, decide on what kind of house, decide on what kind of car, and go get it. Then it takes a little while, sure, but you got to put your seed, put your good seed in your mind, and you work it. How do we work that seed now? This is where the next example comes in. How do you work the seed? I'm going to give you a technique, and this was spoken about by Neville. And by the way, I already tried this technique years ago without even Neville having, I had no Neville in my life. I just did it, and it worked for me, and I knew technique works. So what is the technique? The technique is very simple. First, decision. What do you want? Once you've decided on it, you write it down. I want to have X, Y, Z salary, or I want to have such and such home, or I want to buy such and such car. Okay, we've done that. Next part is how to get there. You close your eyes and you imagine yourself that you are that person. Okay? In other words, if you are A man who's looking for a 50,000, 100,000, I mean, today it'd be like 100,000 salary. If you're a man looking for 100,000 salary, or maybe you're looking for $200,000 salary, no problem. You close your eyes and you look and you are earning the $200,000 salary. That's the man you see in your closed eyes. When you close your eyes, you are making $200,000 salary. How do you know that? Very easy. Because you got your friends, the same friends who were criticizing you, like I had that friend who criticized me. Guess what? He's the one coming congratulate me. Congratulations, Simon, you made it. Yeah, sure, Winston. I knew I was going to make it. Duh, I was like, of course I was going to make it. So, my point is this, that you imagine for 4 to 5 minutes. This is a 4 to 5 minute technique every day. Once to twice a day. Close your eyes. Imagine you are that person who already got that job, that 100,000 or a 150 or a $200,000 salary. You already got it, and you got your friend congratulating that friend who criticized you. The same friend coming to you and saying, "Congratulations, Jack." Remember, Jack is our hypothetical person. Jack, congratulations, you made your salary. Wow, wonderful. Or Jack, congratulations, you made your salary. Isn't that great? And Jack is saying thank you. So you loop that technique for 4 to 5 minutes in your mind, and you do that 1 to twice a day. That's you are impregnating your mind. In other words, you are planting the seed, that very seed that Jesus talked about, that birds came up and ate it, and the rocks choked it, and the sun and the other people that were in that picture who were always there to criticize you, all of that. So now what you see is that seed is in your mind, whether that seed is a job, whether that is a big pot of money. It could be applied to anything. It could be applied to a jackpot, a lottery jackpot. It could be applied to a house. It could be applied to I did apply it, by the way. I applied it to a car. I applied it to a house. I applied it to a job. I did that. So I'm not making this up. I did all of those things in the UK, and I got all of those things. I even got to the US. It's the same seed. So this is why I'm saying that you got to do it that way. Do it for about 4 to 5 minutes daily, and 1 to twice a day. The best times that I have found for me, it might be similar or it might be slightly different, but it's always, not far different from where I was. The best times to do this is when you wake up in the morning, you do your 4 minutes, and when you go to bed at night, you do your 4 minutes. Those are the 2 best times that I've found. Now, if you sleep in the day, like, you have a nap and you wake up, it's a great time to do it. So do it in those times. Continue to do it. Stop listening to other people who are negating you, who are criticizing you, who are, always saying to you, hey, you're not going to get it and all that. Don't listen to those kind of people. You got to do it. You got to believe that your word is true. Believe that your decision is right. When you set on your decision being right and your word being true, you're not going to allow anybody to distract you, and you're not going to allow anybody to speak negative to you, and you're going to succeed. You're going to win. That's it. Because you set your mind to win. So when you set your mind to win, nothing can detract you. By the way, nothing and no one could detract me. What I set my mind to, I got it. Because I was that disciplined. I had a lot of people around me, a lot of family members, speaking, yada, 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 all negative words. I didn't care. I didn't give 2 hoots about them, what they thought about it. I continue to work on myself. I continue to see myself as a successful person. And, the day came, you should have seen my family's faces. Even to this day, they're not even close to me. So, the whole point is this. Don't let anybody discourage you. Set your mind and continue to work on it till the day you succeed. See yourself as a successful person. You always see yourself as a successful person. Always as a successful person. And you will remember the words what Rabbi Simon said, that you are a successful person. You are a winner, sir. You are the successful person. And no one can defeat you. No one can beat you. God is on your side. Baruch Hashem. So with that, I'm going to say, work on yourself, decide on yourself what you want, and continue to work and continue to do and continue to be successful. And do let me know. I'm putting this message out public, so all of you can hear it. And it is public. It's not being hidden or given privately. So I want this message public. And those of you that succeed, write to me. Write to my email address, shimon63@yahoo.com, SHIMOUN63@yahoo.com. Write to me and let me know that you succeeded and you got it and you got your desire. Remember, it always starts with a seed, which is a thought. And you plant that seed in your mind and you work on it, and then voila, it will grow into the big plant, the big tree. And then you'll be like, wow, I did it. And yes, you can do it. May the Lord God of Israel bless you, keep you safe and protected during these times of troubles and afflictions and things going on in the world. Shalom and shalom to you.